Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am here today with Liz Dickinson. Liz Dickinson, CEO, is no stranger to the struggles that come with trying to lose weight. With each pregnancy, she gained stubborn weight that overstayed its welcome, well beyond the baby's due date. No matter how hard she tried, the weight would always come back. In 2000, Liz thought she had finally cracked the code with a strict regimen of counting calories. To support this, she created the Mio watch, which, guys, I did actually use because my competition coach was like, you need to have a Mio watch. Which calculates a daily net calorie balance by tracking food intake and calorie burn. Liz ranked number 15 on the world's top 50 game changers in wearable technology by wearable.com, and Mio became world famous, not as a diet product, but as the world's first heart rate monitor without a clumsy chest strap. That's why I wore it. It was because I had to do my heart rate. And you think that your heart rate is going up to a certain rate when you're doing your cardio training, that you're in your zone. But unless you have a heart rate monitor, you have no clue. And I hated wearing those chest straps. So I loved my Mio watch. And I had to work harder because I wasn't even close to where I needed to be getting my heart rate. So that's as an aside. Liz is a pioneering serial entrepreneur with a special passion for helping people live healthy, happy lives. Excuse me. While supporting others on their path to health and fitness over the past 2 decades with Mio, Liz recognized that no one program on the market provided all the elements needed for someone to lose weight and keep it off. That is why she had turned her passion, expertise, and entrepreneurial grit to the creation of Relish, so she could provide the last weight loss program the world will ever need. Shannon Shearn, COO, as a critically acclaimed circus acrobat and elite athlete, Shannon did what it took to maintain the weight to look the part, no matter how unhealthy the path to get her there. This led to disordered eating, a common issue in the world of professional athletics, and a loud inner critic who constantly told her she was never thin enough, never small enough, and never quite good enough. I don't know if anybody could relate to that, but I think as women, we've all gone through that struggle. When she became a mother, her struggle with bouncing back and weight gain contributed to her feelings of failure at this new chapter in her life, which led to depression and an inability to be fully present for herself, her life, and her family. She needed to make a change to save her life and reclaim her happiness. So she embarked on the journey of redefining what it meant to live fully and win in the ways that matter most. Shannon rose to a place of sustainable health and self-love and began guiding her clients through the same journey with incredible and lasting results that didn't feel like work, sacrifice, or suffering. Shannon and Liz united, a dynamic duo, on the mission to bring a powerful, proven, and lasting solution to the weight loss industry, and Relish Life was born. As Chief Lifestyle Intervention Officer, Shannon personally works with Relish members to provide the support and accountability they need to thrive. Today's topic is about groundbreaking research that has made the link between chronic stress, past trauma, overall health, and weight gain retention undeniable. And we simply can't sit back and watch the same symptom-based treatments fail time and time again. My guests believe that health and happiness are a birthright, and they're committed to helping men and women reclaim what's rightfully there. They say that today, when we lighten up emotionally, physically, and shed our baggage, let go of coping mechanisms, which I am like a big component. Like my running was such a coping mechanism for my stress until I couldn't run anymore. And so like we all have them. You have to kind of look at yourself and say, what are my coping mechanisms? How am I coping? And being empowered to show up in our truest, most vibrant, most authentic selves. The positive ripple when we do that is endless. And it's what our families, our friends, the community, the planet needs to thrive collectively. So today we kind of talked about how we've been approaching weight loss all wrong, how past traumas and not having enough dopamine and all this and having anxiety, how that can really feed into actually affecting the hypothalamus, how it can affect the way the brain is wired, and in a roundabout way affect our cravings, affect why we're having trouble with weight loss, and so much more. We just talked about how the role of trauma plays in weight management. And we also discussed how Liz and Shannon have a whole program that's based on science, but they also use, besides health coaching and doctors on the staff, they use medications. So we went into detail about it. So I hope you guys really enjoy this. It's a little bit different than anything I've done, but I thought it was really interesting. It was definitely a different approach and perspective on the topic of weight loss, and taking us away from the beating ourselves up constantly for failure and not measuring up, to whatever our ideal standards are. So I hope you guys enjoy this. And without further ado, we're going to dive in with Liz Dickinson and Shannon Shearn today. Welcome, guys.
Thanks. So great to be here.
It is.
How's everything in your neck of the woods, Shannon? Where are you from?
I'm from California, so I'm up in wine country, and it's great. A little cold today, actually.
Oh, is it?
For California.
Oh my gosh, you're so lucky. Right before this, I had to let my fur babies in because it's 100 degrees out, and I was like, I can't leave them out. Usually during my hour podcast, that's their time in the backyard, but not today.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Liz? Are you from the same area?
No, I'm actually up in Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, cool. All right. Yeah. We're from all over the place. I'm Ohio girl. So.
All right.
Oh, wow.
I love Ohio.
Oh, cool. Well, this is going to be fun today and very interesting. It's a topic with a new twist, a little different, guys, than anything I ever do. So, you might want to really stay tuned and take some notes today. You created the Mio watch, which I found while I was reading your bio, Liz, and I was so like, wow, that's so cool, because my competition coach always would say, you need to be wearing a heart rate monitor. And I thought, oh, come on now. Really, I need to wear a heart rate monitor too, besides weigh, measure, track my food, and balance and glass heels. Okay, all right, I'll add it to the list. And I was shocked, but I was like, oh my gosh, I am not even getting close to my training heart rate. So I really had to crank it up a notch when I would look and do the heart rate training. So that is pretty clever that you created that watch. And now, like, we're on to this new program, Relish, that you've created. So you're very innovative. How do you think creating Mio kind of led you on this journey to also creating Relish?
It was really an evolutionary process that revolved around my own needs. I was 210 pounds after I had my third child, and I was really frustrated. I couldn't lose weight. So I thought what I needed to do was count calories and be really strict about my food intake and my calorie burn. So when I created the Mio, it was really a product that was designed to calculate a net calorie balance. So tell you how many calories you burned during exercise. You could track the amount of calories you entered into the watch. What I needed in order to track calorie burn was heart rate. And so that's how I ended up putting heart rate into the watch. It wasn't because I had this brilliant idea that, oh my gosh, heart rate training is, the way of the future. It was really because it was a vehicle by which you could calculate calorie burn. That's how I ended up creating this watch. Initially, it was a diet watch. But what we found is that all these athletes were buying this product. It was meant to be a diet watch. And I started digging into that. Why are these athletes buying this watch? And it was because it was a heart rate monitor without a chest strap.
Oh,
so
sure.
That was sort of the kind of first hard pivot away from what the original intention was, which was a diet product. So I've always been interested in diet. And what I learned is that calorie counting just wasn't doing it for me. So even though I had a strict regimen of counting how much I ate, I never went beyond 1,500 a day. I always made sure to exercise away 500 calories a day. I wasn't losing weight. And what was happening? Why wasn't that happening? And so that became a whole process of digging into things that are going on in your body, what's happening physiologically, what's happening at the level of the brain. And just by accident, I actually was in a yoga class and I looked at myself in the mirror. And sometimes you get these body images of yourself and you think, oh, I look okay. Like I don't have to worry about my weight. Well, I actually had this rude awakening. I looked at myself in the mirror, and when I left that yoga studio, I was in tears. Like, who the heck is that woman? I was like 130 some pounds when I entered university, and here I am 210 pounds after my third baby. I walked straight out of that yoga class into a doctor's office, and he looked at me and he said, you've got an impulse control disorder and you've got problems with your hypothalamus. This needs, some treatment. It's not simple. If you're willing to work with me, I'm a dietitian. I can also do counseling. I also recommend that you take this medication, but I'm happy to work with you in this sort of combined methodology. And my gosh, that was the most successful thing. I all of a sudden started losing weight. It just started melting off. And that's when it hit me that losing weight is an integrative process. You need all disciplines. And that sort of emerged into this whole business of Relish Life, which is really the only fully integrated approach to weight loss in the world. We're really proud of that.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't simply just eating less and exercising more. And everybody's probably glad to hear that because a lot of us have tried that and it works for a time, but then it doesn't work anymore. So my question would be, how have we all collectively been approaching weight loss wrong all along?
Well, I can take that one. So I'm a holistic, integrative weight loss specialist. And the thing that I learned in my own experience and those of my clients early on, when I was just like, oh, let's just calculate your calories and get a little accountability, was it's not about what you eat and how you eat and if you exercise more. I mean, those are good, right? Like you want to eat healthy foods, but it's really about understanding how to nourish your body in a way that your body reacts positively. And that includes your brain, right? The whole system is connected. So our stomachs, our gut health, our cellular health, whether we're hydrated or not, that all causes changes, physiological changes all across our body, to our metabolism, to our hypothalamus, to our dopamine levels. So what we need to do is attack it from the standpoint of how do we treat our bodies in a way that is loving and kind and caring, and speak to ourselves in a way where we are nourishing our bodies and not saying, don't eat that. Chocolate's great. French fries are great. Wine is great. So how do we create a mindset around that that's not full of guilt, that is, this is part of my healthy lifestyle, and here's how to do that, versus, well, if I'm going to be healthy, I got to take 2 hours out of my day to get to the gym. I got to watch my kids scream at me while they go to daycare. I got to eat all this, food that I don't like really, and ignore the stuff that I do. That's just adding stress and negativity. And often we're dieting by putting in fewer calories, but not paying attention to the quality of food. So our bodies aren't actually processing food and getting the nutrients it needs. So it's still starving. So it's still saying, hey, I need nutrients. So that's why we're still hungry and we have that impulse control and we think, I just don't have willpower. But that's not true. You're hungry. You're hungry. Your body is hungry. And if you take those same calories and you give it good quality foods, even if it's chocolate cake, but a good quality chocolate cake, right? Your body's going to feel that and take it in and absorb it and use it. So that's where we're all going wrong.
Even though sugar really isn't good for you?
Yeah, I mean, all moderation, right? Because sugar, we need sugar. Our brains function off of sugar. So our bodies need sugar. It is not bad, but the quality of sugar is bad and the amount of sugar, just like gluten. Gluten's not bad unless you're celiacs, but it is, we eat too much of it and we eat over processed wheats that are filled with gluten. And those are just the gluten sticking in our systems. We're not processing the wheats because it's already been processed before we ate it.
But even more from a natural standpoint of real food that isn't processed, if you're eating a piece of fruit, you're getting natural sugar, but it's not processed. Hopefully it's not GMO, and it literally has all this fiber,
right,
that comes with it that's going to slow down some of the absorption. And if we're eating a balanced program, like balance, not like restricted, like not so much like, oh my gosh, I can never eat another carb. Oh my gosh, I can never look at fat again. Like if you're eating a balanced program, then like you could have your fruit, you could have your good fat, but like I personally don't think I want to go eat a ton of fried foods. It's just not healthy. I mean, fried food is not good for you.
Oh, it's not. And it tastes so good. And it's actually designed to be
great.
Addictive.
It tastes
right?
amazing. Yeah.
Right. But, and that's what we do a lot of is, but how do you feel? So talking to people, okay, you ate the fast food because that's what you usually do. Now, how do you feel? Do you feel good? Do you feel guilty? Do you feel tired? Do you feel sluggish? Getting people to pay attention to that so that they're like, you know what? I don't want to feel guilty. I don't want to feel tired and sluggish. What else is there that I can have right now? And that's how our bodies start to crave the good stuff and realize, we're Pavlovian training our bodies to, and our minds to say, no, I don't like that. I don't feel good. But we don't really have that connection built in right now. We kind of ignore it and just eat whatever.
So how do you guys help people? So the biggest thing that I would say as a coach that's worked with thousands of women that people struggle with is eating when they're anxious, feeling guilty because they ate that, whatever it is, possibly binging, and starting over every Monday. You know what I'm saying? Like it's this
absolutely.
whole process that you witness and you see, and then they feel like they failed. So what are the elements to the Relish program that you've created that would help people with this?
So a lot of this is about keeping people from feeling like they've failed. So we have a health coach that is with them every step of the way, talking to them through text, looking at their food logs, checking in every week by call to say, you're doing great. You're doing the right things. In fact, I was just on a call with someone who said, oh man, I just haven't been doing anything in the last 2 weeks. We missed some calls. I haven't been doing anything. I feel like I'm just failing and I'm overwhelmed. But he keeps talking and he's talking about all these little things he's doing. But I've been going out for walks and I really am focusing on food quality, and I can, I'm just like, you're doing amazing. You're starting with the mindfulness. You're building this mindfulness and this understanding of what your body needs. And that's great. He gets off the call feeling motivated and excited because now he realizes he's not failing. He is making progress. So like you said, that's the, hammer on the nail is
so
we really need to get
yourself. So far I'm hearing this. You're nourishing yourself with foods that your body needs. Like it needs nourishment, and that's what it's seeking. And you're also being kind to yourself, which I think could go a long way. What else are some elements? What other elements do you have?
So to your point about, the binging and the anxiety, what we deal a lot with, why that's happening is dopamine, right? Our body needs to feel comfort. It needs the dopamine, and food gives us that. Yeah, food gives us that. Chocolate, fried foods, all of that. And actually our bodies need to adjust. So it gets that dopamine flood, and it needs to counter that by having a little crash. And so then that crash happens. We feel guilty. We then reach for more food because we want more dopamine. And that's how addiction starts with any substance. And in this case, food, right? And food's always around you. So it's not like you can lock it in a cupboard and never have food again. So it becomes this vicious cycle that we create within our brains. And so we work a lot with mindfulness training and psychological interventions and group sort of therapy meetings with master's level counselors. But we also use medications for those of our members who need that balance of dopamine. Because, I've been in places where I was depressed and no amount of meditating and running and eating well was working. And I said to my husband, I'm sick. There's nothing that's helping. I need to go see somebody. And that, just this cloud lifts. Sometimes we need that help. And so we provide that as well, along with doctor check-ins to make sure they're still feeling good. So it's not just like, here's a medication, good luck.
See you later. Right? Yeah. And I think an important thing to note there is there's this really hidden undercurrent of depression that runs through our society, and particularly among women. And it's related to a lot of things around toxic stress, long-term exposure to stress. If you look at the major milestones in our lives, we become mothers and we have this huge responsibility. We go through menopause, our relationship to society changes. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's happening to women, not to mention a lot of stuff that happens to women when we're young that men aren't necessarily exposed to. All of these things add up, and they actually leave physical marks on the brain. This was really well studied by our founding advisor, Dr. Vince Folletti, who actually did something called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Research Study with the CDC and Kaiser Permanente. It was a 17,000 person study that lasted over 20 years. And they looked at a broad population, not just certain minorities or certain socioeconomic classes, but this is, the general population. And what they found was that there was a huge incidence, and I'm talking 65% of the population had at least one adverse childhood experience. And when there is one, there is at least an 85% chance that there's more than one.
For sure.
Right? And so women who have an ACE score of 4 or higher, 60% of those women have chronic, lifelong, undiagnosed depression. What does that translate into? Typically, it translates into weight. And that's why so many women struggle with weight. There are these unresolved issues that have, shown up in the brain, physically shown up in the brain.
It's kind of an issue of the heart as well, right? The trauma that they experience. And I can relate to some of the things you're saying, growing up with a mother that had manic depression, which wasn't really labeled then so much, but she, had that and was hospitalized all the way through my teen years. And
that's
from
an
my
ACE score of 1.
First grade, right? And so that's actually why I got into fitness, to be honest, was
really?
I was not understanding what she was depressed about, because to your mental mind, it doesn't make sense because she has everything, right? It doesn't make sense, right? But it was a chemical imbalance. And so they did have to treat that with medicine. And she's great today. And but I got into fitness because I was a kid. Nobody explained it to me. I didn't understand it, but I knew I didn't want to feel like that. And fitness would always lift me up and make me feel good, because it is one of nature's best antidepressants. It does help. It may not be your cure-all, but it is something you have to constantly be actively doing. You can't just do it one day and think it's going to solve, everything. You have to continually do the things that lift your endorphins. But I think you have to also be willing to help yourself out in other ways, because it can be like a dark, a black hole that you fall into. And like you said, Shannon, having that cloud lift. Just like when women, sometimes I wonder if we're depressed because our hormones are off balance, but women, experience all of these things and they struggle because they don't ask for help and they just think they should suck it up, tough it out, and do it. So I mean, that's how I got extremely depressed, right? It was just, but everybody else is doing this. Why am I struggling so much? Why is this so much harder for me than everybody else? Or is it? Am I just a horrible person that, everybody else seems to handle it and I can't, right? So I have so many women ask that, and they compare themselves, which is, we got to get out of that. But like where they may see their friend and be like, why could she drink and eat chocolate? And I just look at it and I gain weight. It's not fair, But you're saying that trauma plays a role in weight, like gaining weight. So tell us the role about how the past traumas, a little bit deeper than what we just went into, play a role in us gaining weight. That is very interesting. And I think to the listeners, hearing a little more on that, it's going to be interesting.
For sure. So what trauma does, if you're exposed to it in the long term, it actually changes the physical structure of the brain. So your hypothalamic axis is actually altered. And what that does is it changes your neurochemistry. It changes the way the neurons fire. So all of a sudden, you start having issues with your dopamine. The other thing it does is it also is epigenetic, meaning that it actually changes the way that your DNA expresses itself, and it can be passed on to successive generations. So you could also be experiencing the trauma that your parents went through. My parents are survivors from the Second World War. They survived communist Hungary and emigrated to North America. That sort of trauma is passed on to the next generation. And there are ways that people cope with that. People drink to cope with that. People eat to cope with that. And those sorts of behaviors start taking a toll on their body. Drinking too much, even if you're a functioning alcoholic, that's a ton of calories that you're adding to your body every day. If you're trying to get your dopamine requirements by feeding them with food, obviously those additional calories really leave an impact on your body. So it's a lot to do with your neurochemistry. The good news is that your brain is neuroplastic. So neuroplasticity is something that allows us to change the structure of the brain in a positive way. So you can utilize medications to help you sort of stop that impulse, stop that binging, and then you can retrain your brain. You can start to do meditative practices. You can start to do, guided imagery, hypnotherapy, a lot of the stuff that we deliver through Relish Life, through our clinical psychological practices that are all part of the program and included in the program. All of those help you to retrain the brain and to really fix those fundamental neurochemical imbalances.
Now, so I want to add, I'd love to add something to that, because I think that that says a lot. But then what about those people who are saying, but I am doing everything right? I'm eating, like you were, Liz, even earlier, right? You're eating all the right stuff, you're exercising, and I still can't lose weight. Where does that fit into this? Right. And with that chronic stress, we're also, there's a hormone involved there, right? Most of us know that by now, if you're listening to these types of podcasts, called cortisol. So when you've got this chronically elevated cortisol in your system, it is doing a lot of damage on your whole endocrine system. So it's causing a lot of very real impulses and cravings that, you know, we're seeking comfort. And so it's causing that. And not only to the physical impulses, but it's really affecting your insulin levels and your ability to process sugars. So that's why your client who's saying, well, I can't eat, you know, a drop of cake or drink any wine, or I just poof gain weight. But my friend over there, Susie, she seems fine. First of all, we don't know Susie's life. That's what I always tell people. You don't know what's going on there. You don't know what else she's eating or not eating. But also,
she just ate that drop of cake for a week. No,
right, exactly.
In front of you.
Right. So, but you know, that has a very real effect. So our insulin is
insulin resistance
very out of work, out of whack. And in fact, I think it's over 45. Most of the population over 45 is pre-diabetic, even if you're healthy as pie. Just given our natural lifestyles, we are healthy as pie. That's not a thing. Pie's not very healthy. Healthy as an apple. I don't know where that came from. But anyway, so it, you know, it really,
I like pie.
It's really an issue for everybody. And the thing we try to tell people is it's not your fault. It's not willpower. There is something wrong, and it is physiological, and it can be fixed. So it's not you, it's not your willpower, it's not your weakness. This can be fixed.
But also, like, having good gut health could help your neurotransmitters, because like that's your second brain. So there's so much science, there's so many things that I guess listeners shouldn't feel too bad if you're not getting it all right, because you know, you almost need a science degree to understand half of what goes on in your body and how to correct it if something's going wrong. So that's kind of where you guys are coming in. So how do you think, like, how do you guys use medication as part of your treatment protocol? Can you talk more about that? I mean, we do use supplementation. So like, in a way, that's like self-medicating in a way, right? If you're taking a supplement, you're trying to help yourself with that. And so you guys are trying to help people with the medication.
Yes. Well, if you think about self-medication, we actually do self-medicate with food. And food in excess quantities puts a huge stress on the heart, puts a huge stress on your metabolism. Excess weight, it's hard on all of your joints. The reason that I really needed to dig into my weight issue was my knees were starting to give out. I'm such an active person. I'm always hiking. I'm always doing a ton of exercise. And my knee just got to the point where it was so sore, I actually couldn't pursue the things that I love to do in life. I needed to get serious, really serious about my weight loss. You know, so medications really allow the body to take a break from using food as the thing that we self-medicate with. So one of our medications that we prescribe actually is metabolized by the body like sugar and caffeine. It's not addictive, it's not a stimulant. It is truly something that allows your dopamine to be balanced in a better way in your brain. Another one of our medications actually binds to the opioid receptors. So where we see an issue with a lot of our clients is that they have a tendency to drink too much wine. Like, you know, wine hour at the end of the day is a thing for a lot of women. I know that during the pandemic, well, you know, it's another form of self-medication, and I kind of was hitting the wine a little bit too much during the pandemic.
I think so. I think so.
And one of our medications actually binds to the opioid receptors and really just stops that need for a glass of wine. But you can still have a glass or two of wine. Like, my big fear was, if I start taking this medication, am I going to really miss drinking? Am I going to be sad not to have my probably 2, glasses or 3 glasses, even sometimes, like one while I'm cooking, one during dinner, one after dinner? Am I going to miss that? wine? Am I going to sort of feel less happy? But the thing is that the medications give you a chance to give up those things that you're self-medicating with inappropriately, with medications that are FDA approved, that have been tested, that are safe, that actually are really gentle on the body, and then give you that opportunity to retrain your neurochemistry, retrain your physiology, have a healthier conversation with, food, and make better choices. So we prescribe medications that do those things, and they may be prescribed for some people for an extended period of time. Some people only have to take them for a few months, but really it allows you to do the other work that you need to do to really get a handle on your relationship with food or alcohol.
And
sorry, like you said, we're already self-medicating, and we know how bad elevated cortisol levels are for our health, for our heart, for our longevity. We know how bad too much sugar is in processed foods and too much alcohol. So to add a medication option there that we know is FDA approved and safe to eliminate those other actual proven dangers, it becomes a no-brainer when you think about it that way.
And why do you say when we lighten up emotionally and physically and shed our baggage, that we're empowered? Let's go into that a little bit.
Well, so, you lighten up, right? So when we say, how many times my husband told me to lighten up, right? Like when you're
that's
really,
not always a good idea. To tell a woman to chill out is not always good.
That's what I tell him. Never in the history of chilling out has being told to chill out makes you chill out. But anyway, so lighten up, it is getting rid of that feeling. It's not about, when you think about lightening up, it's not physical, right? It's about freeing yourself and letting go of guilt and trauma and resentment and fear and anger. So we say lighten up because what we're really working on is that. And with that, the added benefit is that you're going to lose weight physically, and you're going to get rid of those extra pounds that you're physically carrying that represent the mental weight that you're carrying around. So it's really a representation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why do you think more programs don't look at mental health and past trauma as factors in weight gain?
Wow.
Well, I think a lot of people don't. Yeah. A lot of people don't know, they haven't really paid attention to that. And in the medical community in particular, it's easy to fix weight with fen-phen and stimulants and bariatric surgery and lap bands, right? It's easy to do that. And so they can just say, oh, here's a prescription, and they know their patient will probably lose weight. But what Dr. Felitti found when he was doing that, or, not necessarily to that extent, but when he was dealing with obese patients, they always gained the weight back, sometimes more. They would lose 100 pounds, 150, and gain it all back. And so there's the why. And if you're not paying attention, and if you don't care enough, you're not going to notice that.
That's probably why they don't have a reunion episode of The Biggest Loser.
That is
right.
Exactly
I think
why.
like the people gain that back,
Yeah.
And I mean, it has to be a lifestyle change, I think, overall, and not like this hurry up, quick fix, beat yourself up every day to get into this ideal of what people's ideal is of what you should be or look like. Of course, we all want to be healthy, and the more visceral fat we have and body fat in general, it's not healthy. How does this medication that you guys are talking about, how does it work? And you guys do provide support with this. So can you go into a little more detail?
Yeah. So depending upon, like, the doctor evaluates every one of our clients and evaluates the history. We look at the person's ACE score. So when somebody comes into the program, we have them fill out the ACE questionnaire that was developed by Kaiser and Dr. Folletti. And, from that, we can develop an understanding of, is this person depressed? Does this person have an unhealthy relationship with substances that are addictive? And based upon our assessment, we typically prescribe to them medications like bupropion, which is an antidepressant, and also works on ADHD. It also is an impulse control, helps with impulse control by stopping dopamine reuptake. So it's called a dopamine reuptake inhibitor. And then another one of our medications that we prescribe is called Naltrexone. And Naltrexone binds to the opioid receptors. So what that does is it stops that craving. So even if you're having a drink, you don't really feel like having another drink. And the other thing, it blocks your ability to feel the effects of the alcohol. So you're basically just feeling, the dizziness, but you don't actually feel the joy of the drinking. So you don't really feel like having another drink. So those are, how those medications work. They're actually available together in one pill called Contrave as well that we also can prescribe. There is another medication we prescribe called semaglutide. And what that does is it actually is called, it mimics a real hormone in the body. It's called a GLP-1 hormone, which causes the production of insulin. So it allows your body to process glycogen more effectively and allow your body to utilize it more effectively in the muscles. So we take a look at an individual's profile, take a look at how much of it is in the brain that we think is happening. Is it really as a result of the past trauma? How much of it is because this individual has been carrying around weight for too long and has become insulin resistant, or because they're of a certain age? And are they candidate for semaglutide? Are they candidate for both? And then we will write the prescriptions for that individual and of course monitor them along their journey.
So why do you think the medical industry has not used medication more in like the past for weight loss?
Yeah, so there's a lot of answers to that, and I really dug into that quite a lot. First of all, only 0.5% of doctors actually are trained in obesity medication and how to treat problems with obesity or overweight. When a doctor is presented with a patient with a weight problem, their natural inclination, because they haven't really been trained, like they're given maybe half an hour of weight training, like training on how to treat overweight patients in medical school, their natural inclination is to refer them out to a program like Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig, or to send them to a nutritionist. Another issue is that the medical establishment makes a lot of money from bariatric surgery. So a lot of these weight programs where these patients go in to lose weight, I'm shocked that they're never told about medications, but the first line of defense is surgery. Well, there's a lot of money to be made in these kinds of gastrointestinal surgeries and lap band surgeries. So, unfortunately, that is an issue with the for-profit medical establishment. Another reason, though, is many doctors do have goodwill and they do have good intention, of course, towards their patients. The problem is they've been burned by weight loss medications in the past. So in the 80s, there was this product that came out with fen-phen. It was touted as the great, solution for weight loss, and doctors bought into it and they started prescribing it.
I knew people that took it and lost weight on it. Yep.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it showed that it was causing cardiovascular issues. Phentermine is addictive, it's a stimulant. You're only supposed to be on it for 3 months, but people lost weight on it. So patients, people wanted to be on it for longer. It was approved in 1959. So doctors just, there's a lot of reasons to unpack there. So they're not really up to date on the new medications like semaglutide or Contrave that have been approved by the FDA as recent as 2014 for weight loss. They aren't aware of the relationship between depression and weight. So they are not prescribing antidepressants like Wellbutrin. They aren't sort of thinking through how much is drinking related to my patients being overweight. So they're not prescribing Naltrexone. There's, 10% of women have polycystic ovary syndrome. There's a huge relationship between weight and PCOS, and Naltrexone has a huge impact on PCOS. So, there's so many ways to influence weight through medication that's just not being practiced. That's why there's an opportunity for a company like Relish Life. And we find that medications are totally underutilized, and there is a perfectly valid role for medications in weight loss.
Why should the people talk to their, what should they discuss with their practitioner? And why should they talk to their practitioner with, healthcare practitioners before they begin this program?
It's always a good idea if you have a primary care physician to talk to your primary care physician, if you've got a good relationship with them, and tell them what you're interested in doing. Want to hear some funny stories? We have a lot of patients, and so, we'll give them a prescription, and then they'll go back to their primary care physician and they'll double check it with their primary care physician. We get calls from their primary care physicians asking us to educate them on these medications because they've never heard of them, or they've never heard of them used in this context. So here we're sending all of these studies, these clinical studies. The Obesity Society of the US actually has huge publications on these medications, and it's just not known. And so really we're finding ourselves really educating primary care physicians on this very subject.
Which is funny too, to add to that story, one of our patients, probably a couple, I think at this point, they went back to their doctor and said, oh, I found this program, here are the medications. And their doctor said, well, why not try phentermine? Here's an appetite suppressant. I'll just prescribe you that. And we're just like, wow, this is what's happening out there. They're seeing what we're doing and they're saying, oh, but I know phentermine. I know that these appetite suppressants will get the weight off. So let's do that first.
Yeah, and that's treating the symptom. It's like, bringing a big fan to a house fire and, expecting that to put the fire out. Or like Shannon likes to say, eating a throat lozenge for throat cancer. You're treating the symptom, not the underlying cause. But the point on phentermine is absolutely bizarre. Only 24% of doctors today are writing prescriptions for weight loss medication. Only 24%. Of those 24%, 75% of the prescriptions are for phentermine, which was approved in 1959. That's crazy. When there are so many really good modern medications that can be prescribed.
Well, just like you said, they're not studying weight loss really in school. That's
right.
not their gig. They also aren't studying nutrition, fitness, and the very little time spent on nutrition, maybe a couple weeks, like it's, unless they like say this is their, part of their study, like where they're, really specializing in it. And so for the most part, people think, we grew up thinking we should listen to whatever our doctor says. And I have to say, like, when in regards to things like that, you got to do your homework. You need to be your own advocate. You've got to do your research. And of course, you want to trust your doctor, but not in every area are they the expert.
Right. And, I think that what's happening in the industry is that there are businesses like ours that are emerging that really understand an issue like weight loss very thoroughly. Like there are other businesses out there that will prescribe medications, but it's not enough to have the medication. Like I think what we're really proud of at Relish is that we support it with the amazing work that Shannon and the team of health coaches that we have clinical psychologists, that we have master's level therapists that help people really, address issues with self-esteem. Some of these women that, we have men too, but a lot of this is issues that women have. Some of these women some of them are actually counselors themselves, and they'd never heard of the ACE study. And they start in our program, they said they've never felt this good. Like for 20 years, they've been in this cloud of depression and they had no idea. And all of a sudden they feel like they can now start to work on themselves. They're losing weight, they're happy, they're ready to present to life with, just such a positive attitude now. We are so proud of the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
And you guys, you provide, like, besides the medication, you provide support, right? Throughout the process. And what about after the weight loss?
We have a whole maintenance program. So we have a few levels where people can stay in and have access to our resources or our group meetings or their health coach, and kind of, dwindle off of whichever ones that are becoming unnecessary for them. So maybe you don't need a health coach every week anymore, and we can create a new package for you. Maybe you don't need the medications anymore. Let's create a new package where you can still see the doctor and check in. So we work really hard to personalize the experience for everybody in a way that allows them to see results and sustain their results in a way that feels good. And I think, to Liz's point, there are plenty of programs out there, good programs that get weight off with these medications, with phentermine, with keto diets, 60-day boot camps, all of those things. But if you don't fundamentally change your identity as somebody who struggles with food and who has traumas that they're trying to suppress and has chronically elevated cortisol levels, you're never going to sustain that weight loss, because you're always going to try to get back to what is my true identity. It's like the person who wins the lottery, right? Most often they go bankrupt. They don't see themselves as rich people. They don't know themselves as somebody who's rich and has no problem with money. So they spend it all. They try to get back to their identity. And so unless you can change that identity
themselves.
Yeah.
I read about that in the Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
Yeah.
It's a reality, and you have to watch it when you actually succeed at something. If you didn't see yourself, How
many of you out there listening? How many people listening have had that experience? They start to lose weight and then they get scared. What does this mean? Is this my life?
They don't
forever?
see themselves as a fit person, and it's scary, and it's a new
What's
normal.
my life going to be like? If I do lose weight, I can't see what my life is going to be like. Like, that scares me. I don't know how to live like that.
Success.
So, right.
Yeah. So, this is the last weight loss program anybody will ever need. That's our guarantee. We will give a lifetime guarantee to people that join Relish Life. You'll lose weight with Relish and you will keep it off. We are that confident in what we're providing. We are probably the only real, long-lasting, serious weight loss program in the world. And we're staffed by the world's experts. Dr. Brian Allman, who's our chief behavioral officer, he's world-renowned. He's written 7 books on weight loss. His books have been endorsed by Deepak Chopra, and he's gone to India to teach meditative practices. I mean, he is really a genius. Dr. Al Ray, he's our chief medical officer, and he worked very closely with Dr. Vince Folletti at Kaiser's Positive Choice Weight Loss Clinic, chair of the California Medical Association. I mean, these are global experts in weight loss that are part of our team. We have pulled together decades of knowledge on how to lose weight and keep it off. And that's what we put together in Relish Life, and we're offering to people at a price point, which is really affordable. Our program started at $99 a month.
Well, that's really cool. And I hope, the listeners can, if anybody, wants to be getting on this program that really could relate to what we were talking about today, where could they listen and learn more about Relish?
Well, we have a website, www.relish.life. No .com after that, just relish.life. And you can find out a lot of information on there. And then we have, Facebook and Instagram, where we're always posting things, and we'll be posting the updated membership tiers as they come in. And giving away a lot of great insight from our professionals. And we're always happy to hop on calls. So on the website, we have schedule a call where generally Liz or I will pick up the phone and talk to people and really help listen to you and understand what are your unique needs and is this program right for you? Because it's not right for everybody. So we're always happy to schedule a call, and we can offer your listeners a discount code if you would like.
Okay, sure.
All right, so probably sisterhood. Does that sound good?
Sisterhood sounds good.
All right, so we'll do sisterhood 20, and that will be 20% off our membership.
Sisterhood 20. Okay, so that'll be the code they use when they go to the website.
Yep.
Okay, that's a deal. Like, you can't beat that, you guys. So what would I just want to thank you guys so much for coming on, and what would be a parting tip for our listeners from each one of you?
My tip would be just to start. I mean, anything you're doing right now, just start with learning to love yourself and listen to your inner voice. And even if it's negative, catch yourself. Oh, there I go judging myself again. Don't try to stuff it down. Don't try to ignore it. Just start to listen to how do you speak to yourself, and start transforming from there. Become your own best friend. See your body as your best friend because it's with you for life. And if you nail that, you'll just soar from there.
That was really good. What about you, Liz?
I'm sorry, but my internet cut out right when you asked the question, so I didn't hear it.
a final parting tip for the audience.
Final parting tip would be, don't be afraid to make a change in your life at any stage of your life that you're at. There is always an opportunity to become the best version of yourself, and you just have to take the step and just take that initiative to take the step, and you'll thank yourself for it.
Oh, that was so good today, ladies. I want to just thank you so much for coming on. And thanks to everybody for listening to this episode of the Sisterhood of Sweat. Make sure you use the code Sisterhood20. And as always, keep on keeping on, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.